Not all fairy tales bring comfort. Some twist, loop, and open doors best left closed. Fairy Tales That Should Not Be Read is a collection of strange, whimsical, and slightly unsettling stories. They don't give easy answers. They make you think. They don't entertain. They transform. Why shouldn't they be read? Because they linger. Because they change you. Step into a world where reality bends. Listen carefully. The Silence of the Mountain. Sometimes the burdens we carry feel like an inseparable part of us. Worries, fears, past mistakes, and the weight of others' expectations slowly accumulate, until one day, we can no longer take another step forward. But do we really have to carry it all? The Silence of the Mountain is a story about a man climbing upward, weighed down by a heavy sack. But the mountain is silent for a reason. It knows that those who reach its peak are not just seeking height, but answers. This tale is about acceptance, the strength to let go, and the realization that burdens don't disappear on their own. We must learn to untie them. Sometimes all it takes is to pause, take a deep breath, and ask, is this truly mine to carry? If you've ever felt that your load is too heavy, this story is for you. Chapter 1. The Silence of the Mountain. On the horizon beyond the soft curves of the hills stood the mountain. It wasn't the tallest, but it held something special. A majestic, serene silence that embraced everyone who approached. Its slopes were covered in meadows that shifted colours with the seasons. Soft green in spring, golden in summer, copper in autumn. It felt as if the mountain itself was breathing, sometimes holding its breath, sometimes exhaling slowly through the ancient pines growing higher up. In this world, the mountain was silent, but never indifferent. Its quietness felt like a song one could only hear with the heart. Even the wind moved gently here, as if afraid to disturb its peace. It glided along the lake at the foot of the mountain, leaving barely visible ripples on the water's smooth surface. The lake reflected the sky so clearly that it seemed its depths were nothing but the sky itself, resting upon the earth. At the edge of the forest surrounding the mountain, animals slumbered. A young deer, its back still speckled with faint white spots, stood inhaling the scent of pine. Red squirrels hurriedly buried their winter reserves among the roots of the trees. Even the magpie, usually so fond of quarrelling, quietly preened its feathers, as if it too understood. This place belonged to silence. The mountain waited. It always waited. It knew that someone in need of its silence would come. In its patience, there was something profoundly human, like an old soul listening with wise kindness to the worries of the young. The man and his burden. He arrived early in the morning, just as the world was beginning to wake. The sun peeked through the mist that draped over the earth like a ghostly blanket. The man walked slowly, his back bent, a large sack slung over his shoulders. Heavy with frayed edges, it seemed like a part of him, so closely were they entwined. The man looked exhausted. His eyes, once perhaps bright, were now dull, as if covered with dust. His clothes were simple but worn, as though life had made him walk too far, work too hard, and rest too little. A shadow lay across his face, not just from lack of sleep, but from doubts and worries. What had brought him here? Perhaps it was the years of fear he had never dared to release. Perhaps the failures that had piled up like stones in his sack. Or maybe it was the weight of others' expectations, pressing down upon him, forcing him to carry burdens that weren't even his. No friends or family walked beside him. Yet, like shadows, the forest animals followed. A small weasel, nearly invisible, moved along the path, its eyes, like two black beads, staring straight into the man's soul. A young hare hopped playfully nearby, its long ears twitching at every sound. And from the treetops, an owl watched him silently, like an ancient guardian of the path. A conversation with the mountain. Reaching the summit, the man sank onto a large rock. He took a deep breath, but even the fresh air here could not break through the weight pressing against his chest. The sack rested beside him, silent and unmoving, yet its silence carried the weight of 1,000 words. "Why have you come?" whispered the pines. The man flinched. "I don't know," he said. "My burden. It gets heavier every day. I can't carry it anymore." "What is inside?" asked the soft wind, carrying the scent of distant flowers. The man hesitated. A flicker of surprise crossed his face. He didn't know how to answer. "They're my worries," he whispered. "My fears, my mistakes, and the expectations of others. There are so many of them that I've forgotten which ones are truly mine." The mountain remained silent, but its silence was full of understanding. At that moment, the small weasel stepped forward. Carefully, it placed its tiny paws on the sack, as if testing its weight. The magpie, which had been watching from a branch, fluttered down and tilted its head, studying the knot that kept the sack closed. "Perhaps you don't have to carry it alone," murmured the wind. The knot unravels. Suddenly, the knot, once so impossibly tight, loosened. Perhaps it was the weasel skillfully pulling at a loose thread. Perhaps the sack itself had grown weary of being shut. But it didn't matter. The sack opened. The man froze. From inside, clouds began to escape. The first was dark grey, dense, nearly black. It was the cloud of fear, wrapping itself around his legs, chilling his skin, making his heart race. The next was pale, almost transparent, smelling of unspoken words and long-forgotten wounds. More followed, green, the cloud of envy, red, the cloud of anger, yellow, the cloud of exhaustion from endless expectations. Each one rose into the sky, swirling together as if time itself had paused. The man watched in despair. "This is all me," he whispered. "I carried them for so long. They are a part of me." "But you don't have to carry them anymore," the mountain replied. "They can stay here, a new dawn." When the last cloud drifted beyond the horizon, the man felt something new. He looked at the sack. It was light, nearly empty. Inside remained only a few small things. They did not weigh him down. They did not burden him. They were important. The world around him had changed. The sun was rising, its light playing on the dewdrops that covered the grass. The forest awakened, filled with birdsong. A squirrel leaped joyfully between the branches, and the weasel stretched out on a warm rock, basking in the first rays of sunlight. The man smiled. His shoulders straightened, his eyes brightened. He felt a lightness he hadn't known in years. His heart was free, his steps confident. The mountain was silent once more, but its silence was an embrace, saying, "You can always return. But now you know. Your burden is a choice, and the choice is yours." The man understood. There was no need to collect and hold on to every bit of negativity that life might bring. Pain and hardship were part of life, part of its rhythm. But there was no reason to make them a permanent weight to carry. He would no longer keep inside that which made him stop or bend under the pressure. He looked at the world with new eyes. His heart opened like a flower at dawn, drinking in light and warmth. A boundless sense of joy and clarity filled his soul. He felt ready to live with an open mind, with faith in himself. "I can accept life as it is. I let go of my burdens and make space for joy. I am free." The sun climbed higher, illuminating the world around him and within him. And with a steady step, the man began his new journey, knowing he was stronger than ever before.